The NFL Draft is getting closer. And we just might know what your team will do. GameDay Garage presents The Prospect Files with Ryan Horvat.
All right, Thursday, March 19th, although, who's keeping track these days? And I didn't plan on recording anything because it's the opening day, the opening round. It's still the opening day of the NCAA tournament. I know last night we watched Miami, Ohio, beat up on SMU, win and cover, by the way, by 10 points. The night before that, I had NC State, so that was heartbreaking. But today is officially the day where we all take off of work, take off of school, and sit on our couches, go to a bar, sit in front of the televisions, TVs all day long, and we watch college basketball. So I didn't plan on talking any NFL, but I actually placed a bet. My first real NFL future win total of the season. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit and hit on the NFL draft really quickly. As far as you see on the board here to my right, perfect fits. We talked about Fernando Mendoza. I am a big Ty Simpson fan, especially after the combine. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback if he's drafted into the right situation. But as far as perfect fits, I mean, Mendoza is the perfect fit for the Raiders, right? Like the Raiders, they need a starting quarterback. They need a franchise quarterback. Geno Smith was not the answer. Gardner Minshew is not the answer. Really, they haven't had the answer for a decade plus, which is why they've struggled and which is why they're picking number one overall. Mendoza's the safe pick, good PR guy, doesn't turn the ball over, could push the ball down the field, had a 5.7% big throw rate last year at Indiana, only a 2.6% turnover-worthy play rate. So he's not going to turn the ball over. I mean, he may as a rookie, but I think that's the safe pick. Perfect fits, though. And this is going to tie in with my surprise team. So we're going to do 2 and 1 here because we're not going to take up a whole bunch of time because it's tournament time. We'll really hit the draft next week, the week after that, really, when the NCAA tournament wraps up and when we get some more NFL draft bets available. Because, again, right now, all you could bet is number 1 overall pick. We already know that's going to be Mendoza. And then as far as number 2 overall pick, I took Ruben Bain Jr. I know everybody thinks, and most likely it's going to be Reese. Makes a ton of sense. He's a genetic physical freak. He sees himself as an edge rusher, is what he continues to say. I think if you're drafting him number 2 overall, he's going to have to be an edge rusher, but he only played, I believe, 138 pass rushing snaps in college. But most likely he's going to go number 2 overall. But now you're looking at, I believe, a minus 250, minus 150 price on that in some shops. So I took Ruben Bain Jr. really small, bet him at 10-1 to go number 2 overall. I know the measurements, aren't perfect, but you go back and you watch the tape at Miami, top 10, top 5, getting after the quarterback, and top 10 against the run. So you don't have to take him off the field. I think he would be a perfect fit for really any defense. And he also had a 23.5% pass rush win rate. So he could get after the quarterback. That was number 1. Among all draft eligible Power 4 edge rushers. So at 10-1, took a shot with Bain to go number 2 overall. But as far as perfect fits, and as far as my my team that I'm going to throw out there this year, the last couple of years I've hit on these. Last year I really liked Jacksonville coming into the season. Everybody called me crazy. I also like Chicago. We played the Bears win total and the Bears to win the NFC North. Every year there's that worst to first team. And I said this last year. I was like, I'm a big fan of Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator. I don't think he's an NFL head coach, but I really like him as a defensive coordinator. He goes back to San Francisco, even with a beat-up defense, which down the stretch didn't have Fred Warner and didn't have Nick Bosa. They were a playoff team. They were a couple games away from being in the Super Bowl. So I do like Saleh, but I also said some team is going to lose their damn mind and talk themselves into hiring Robert Saleh because he's done such a good job here in San Francisco, where he's a perfect fit. He's with his buddy Kyle Shanahan. running the defense. But I don't know that he's a head coach because it didn't go very well, obviously, with the Jets. But then again, like, what coach can turn around the New York Jets? They pick up Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, and on the third snap of the season, he goes down. It was a mess after that. So I'm going to give Saleh a pass. I didn't like this hire, though, originally by Tennessee, because Tennessee last year drafts Cam Ward #1 overall. I don't like a defensive-minded head coach with a young quarterback, right? Like, that was the reason, not that Trevor Lawrence is so young anymore, but that was the reason I liked Jacksonville last year, was because I was a big fan of Liam Cohen. Even when he was at Kentucky, he made Will Levis look good, like his running game. I like Chicago last year because I've always been a big fan of Caleb Williams. He picked up some bad habits, especially year one under Eberflus and under that idiot offensive coordinator, that doofus. But I love Ben Johnson. I didn't like this hire originally in Tennessee, hiring Robert Saleh, because Cam Ward, I do think, has a high ceiling. I think he could be a really good starting NFL quarterback, but he's picked up some bad habits along the way, really going back to his college days. And so I wanted an offensive-minded head coach. But then they go out and they hire Brian Daboll. And I know if you're a Giants fan, you might not like Brian Daboll. I like Brian Daboll, right? Like, look what he did year one with the Giants. Saquon was healthy, granted, but, Daniel Jones, and I know Daniel Jones had a good first half of the season before getting injured with the Colts last year, but that wasn't the most talented team. They won double-digit games. They won a freaking playoff game against Minnesota. I like Brian Daboll, and he hasn't had a healthy quarterback or a healthy team the last couple of years. So, again, maybe Brian Daboll isn't a head coach. I thought maybe he should go to the collegiate level, maybe go to Penn State. But I do like him as an OC. Go back, look what he did in Buffalo. Look what he did with Josh Allen. Josh Allen might be the best quarterback in the league right behind Mahomes. He's definitely top 3. But let's remember what Josh Allen looked like before Brian Daboll got there. Now you got Brian Daboll with Cam Ward. So this ties in with my perfect fit. I don't know if they would have to move up. And I know it's a running back. I don't think you want to move all the way up to 2 or 3. But man, I think Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. I love Reuben Bain. We'll talk about the wide receivers next week, but Jeremiah Love, and I am a Notre Dame fan, I know, is the best player in this draft. And what does Tennessee need? They need offensive firepower, because I actually really like their offseason on the defensive side of the ball. They go out, they get John Franklin Myers. They needed a defensive tackle because they traded Sweat to the Jets for Jermaine Johnson, an edge rusher. Now you get Franklin Myers on a decent deal, 3 years, $63 million, I believe. Had 7.5 sacks in 2025. And you're going to pair him with Simmons. So I really like that pickup. What else did they do? They picked up Taylor. So you get a defensive back, 3 years, $60 million for Alontae Taylor. I like this. Most likely he's going to be playing on the outside. Maybe they draft another slot corner. They do go out, and pick up another corner. They pick up Mitchell Trubisky. I like the Trubisky pickup, and I know people are going to laugh because he's probably not going to see any time as long as everything goes right and Cam Ward stays healthy. But you got a young quarterback in Cam Ward, and now you bring in Mitchell Trubisky, who has been the backup for Brian Daboll, knows Brian Daboll's offense. So the perfect tutor, for a young quarterback in Cam Ward. Obviously, we have to wait and see how the schedule plays out. We have to wait and see what they do in the draft. But they also, on the offensive side of the ball, Tennessee, they are going to attempt to fix up the defensive side of the ball. And you have Robert Saleh. So instantly, I think that defense is going to improve. Offensively, with Brian Daboll and with Cam Ward taking that year 2 leap, I don't think the offense could be any worse, right? And they go and they pick up Wan'Dale Robinson. And I know it's not Justin Jefferson. It's not Jamar Chase. It's not the sexiest name out there. And you're paying them $19 million a year. Well, a 4-year, $78 million deal. So yeah, $19 million a year. But I mean, I think this is the perfect fit. Look what he's done in the Brian Daboll offense. He had at least 90 receptions each of his last 2 or 3 seasons. Had 140 targets in 2024. Looking at it right now, pulling up 41% in 2025 of his 185 catches, resulted in first downs. So I think you have Calvin Ridley, and you could kind of like play Robinson a little bit all over the field. You could play him in the Z position. So I like what Tennessee is doing. And I think if they could go out and get a playmaker like a Jeremiah Love, who, again, I know he's a running back, and I know years ago we thought it was crazy to take a running back as a top 10, top 5, first-round pick. But I got to be honest, man, I think Jeremiah Love would be the perfect fit for the Brian Daboll Tennessee offense. I think the defense is going to be much better. So what I did was played a couple futures here. Let me pull up the latest odds. Now this is just a stab here, some pizza money, we'll call it. I like Tennessee to win the AFC South. So you have the Texans at plus 135, maybe the best defense in all of football, but it's like Moneyball. But you got CJ Stroud, who might be brain dead as your starting quarterback. I like the Jags last year. I could see some regression. Jesus Christ, I haven't done radio in a long time. I could see some regression kicking in. It's also very early as I record this, making excuses for myself, and I haven't had my coffee yet. I could see some year 2 regression for Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen, and the Jags. Colts at 4-1. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to find the same success, and he's going to be coming back from an injury. And the offensive line really fell apart the second half of the season. Tennessee's 7-1 right now to win the South. Their win total is 6.5. I did see this juiced as high as minus 140, but I think they're a 7-win team. So I played the win total. I laid the minus 140 at 6.5. I took a stab at 7-1 on them to win the division. And then I took them at plus 240 to make the playoffs. So Tennessee we'll go with as my surprise team going into 2026. Worst to first. I could see it. Cam Ward takes that year 2 leap. Defense improves under Robert Saleh, who, again, I hated the hire. I don't like defensive-minded head coaches with young quarterbacks. But when you bring in an OC like Brian Daboll, who is going to be in his bag all year, kind of like Kingsbury 2 years ago with Jaden Daniels, I think he's going to be in his bag because I think Brian Daboll is eventually going to want to be an NFL head coach once again. As far as a couple other fits that I would really like to see, I would like to see Mekhi Lemon end up in Washington with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, I know that the Commanders have many, many needs, a lot of them on the defensive side of the ball, but get Jaden Daniels another weapon. McLaurin's not getting any younger, and you go back, man, and you watch the tape on Lemon, 3.13, 3.13 yards per route run, 8th best in college football. He only dropped 2 catchable passes all season long. You give Daniels a reliable target, he could stay healthy. I think that Commanders offense bounces back. I would like to see Carnell Tate. Man, if you need a wide receiver, just look at whoever's coming out of Ohio State. Wide receiver you. Brian Hartline's done an excellent job, which is why he got a better job. Carnell Tate, I think, would be a perfect fit for the Saints. A lot of people have been talking to me about the Saints winning the division. Don't hate it, to be honest with you guys. You know, we'll see if Atlanta can get the quarterback position right. I don't know if you guys are believers in Tua. I sure as shit am not. We'll see if Penix is healthy. I would like Tate, though, for New Orleans, who apparently found their quarterback, right? And he's 6'2", 192 pounds. He didn't drop any of his catchable targets. So Lemon only dropped 2 balls that were in his hands. Tate only dropped 2 catchable targets all last season for Ohio State. Great route runner. I would love him for the Saints. As far as defensive players, the Chiefs, man, I'm a big Spags fan, obviously. Defensive genius. That was not your typical Spags defense last year. The offensive line was no good. They got Mahomes killed. I know Kelsey's getting older. They need some help, though, on the defensive side of the ball. I would love for David Bailey to be a Kansas City Chief. We were talking about Jeremiah Love. They go out and they pay Kenneth Walker. So they go against everything that I said. Maybe they'll make me look dumb. I thought they should have drafted Love. A lot of people think they're going to go offensive line. Maybe they do. I would love to see David Bailey. Won 21.6% of his pass rush reps. That was a top 15 mark in college football last year. Texas Tech's defense was the real deal. Unfortunately for me, their offense wasn't because they cost me a ton of money. Caleb Downs, I think, is the perfect fit anywhere. I think he is going to be, it's crazy to, like, I don't want to say future Hall of Famer, but he's going to make a couple Pro Bowls. He's going to be an all-pro. I wouldn't hate him in Cincinnati. I'm a Burrow guy. I want to see Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the Bengals back in the playoffs. Trey Hendrickson is gone. They need some help on the defensive side of the ball. They sure as shit need some edge rushers, but if you go and get a guy like Downs, You could play him all over the field. Really good in coverage, obviously. Would love that fit. The Dolphins need a lot now. They're completely rebuilding, but there's no more Tyreek Hill. They released him. So if they don't go defense, if they don't go offensive line, I wouldn't hate Jordan Tyson. I know some people didn't love the combine, but I don't know, man. I go back and I watch him at Arizona State, and the dude was an absolute stud. Dropped only 1.6% of his catchable passes thrown his way. Last year, he was in the 97th percentile. I like Jordan Tyson if they're going to go after a wide receiver. We'll hit on more next week. It's NCAA tourney time. But, man, I just keep thinking about Tennessee going into next year, a team that hated them last year. Cost me a ton of money. I have a weird addiction with betting the Titans. Did it 2 years ago as well with Will Levis. But next year, I think they're going to be much improved. I at least think they win 7 games. And anything better than plus 200, 2-1, a 2-1 price, I like Tennessee to make the playoffs. I don't know that they win the division. Jacksonville's still there. Houston's still there. But at 7-1, I think there's worse ways you could spend your money. Like paying for... God, what's that guy's name? Can't think of it right now. Country music guy. Everybody loves him. Threw a chair off somebody's bar. Morgan Wallen. That guy sucks, by the way. Anyway, surprise team for 2026. Tennessee. Perfect fit. Jeremiah Love in Tennessee as a Titan. NFC North early thoughts. I was talking about this with my buddy Bart Winkler on his podcast yesterday. Everybody loves Minnesota. I saw Mike Clay project them to win double-digit games. I think their win total, I believe, is 8.5. I'm staying away from Minnesota. Love Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, they have the weapons. I am out on Kyler Murray. I made him my fantasy quarterback, and I know you don't give a shit about my fantasy team. I don't care about yours. But I made him my franchise quarterback 2 years ago in a dynasty league, and now I'm stuck with him. Like, is he fun? Yes, he's a video game. He could run around the field. He's exciting as hell, but I don't know that he can make all the throws. And I can see Justin Jefferson being fed up. He's also very small, we all know. And I love these like memes that are out there. Some of them are played out, not really original, but like the one where Peter Dinklage is like looking down on him. I thought that one was pretty funny. So I don't love Minnesota. Can they win 12 games? Sure. If Kyler stays healthy, if he lives up to his potential in a Kevin O'Connell offense with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and a Brian Flores defense, Minnesota could win the division, but they're not my pick. And I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, as everybody knows, but I'm not going to bet Green Bay right now. Can Green Bay win the division and win the Super Bowl? Yes, if Micah Parsons comes back as Micah Parsons early, because I still have some big concerns about that secondary. When we talk about what Green Bay should do in the draft, which is going to be not a whole lot, man, because they don't have a first-round pick because they gave up a ton of draft capital to acquire Micah Parsons, they have to get some help in that secondary. And I wouldn't have overpaid Romeo Doubs either. I would have let him be a Patriot. But, man, I got to be honest, like, I don't love the wide receiver room. I'm a fan of Christian Watson, but is he a number one and can he stay healthy? Not quite sure. Can Jaden Reed finally take that next step? I do think Matthew Golden, I know he was a little bit of a bust as a rookie. He was a rookie in a complicated offense with a beat-up quarterback. I do think that Matthew Golden, when his player props come out, I'm going to play all overs. I'm very, very high on Matthew Golden. And maybe just very high, but very high on Matthew Golden going into the 2026 season. I think Matthew Golden is going to catch at least 8 touchdowns. He's going to go over all of his props if he can stay healthy. So high on Matthew Golden, high on Green Bay, but they're not my pick to win the NFC North. I already bet this. I'm betting Detroit. I was out on Detroit last year. I took them better than 2-1 to miss the playoffs. I went under on the win total because they lost both coordinators. And I don't think Aaron Glenn was a big loss because I think he's a bit of an idiot. But Ben Johnson was sure as shit a huge loss. And you lose him. The offensive line had some issues, obviously, when you lose, one of the all-time greats right before the season begins. Don't necessarily love anything that they've done this offseason, but they're going to play a easier schedule. The offense still scored a ton of points. I like the Pacheco pickup if you're going to lose David Montgomery. And I think this means they're finally going to give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs as much as they should. If Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't touch the ball at least 25 times per game, as far as like as a pass catcher and a running back and all-purpose back, everybody needs to be fired. Dan Campbell maybe needs to be killed. I'm joking. Not really a funny joke. We don't promote violence here on the Game Day Garage. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 3 back, maybe better in the NFL. Give him the rock. I know David Montgomery's a fun story, and you had him on your fantasy team, and you were playing his fucking anytime touchdowns, but give Jahmyr Gibbs the touches. That's what Detroit's going to do. And now Aiden Hutchinson's another year healthier. Like, that was another issue I had last year. On the other side, your other edge rushers, Marcus Davenport, who never plays more than 10 games. I think they're going to fix up the defense in Detroit. I like some of the moves that they've made. I think Detroit bounces back. Them and San Francisco, as of right now, are my 2 picks to win the NFC. But I did bet the Lions to win the NFC North. Love Green Bay. Hopefully they could stay healthy and they get Micah back. The Vikings are the ultimate wild card. I'm just out on Kyler because he's burned my fantasy team. No, I'm kidding. It's because he can't stay healthy, and it's Kyler. And then you have the Bears, and I love the Bears going into last year, but they've lost like every member of the secondary. And here's my problem with Chicago. The offense is still going to be legit as long as Ben Johnson's still there and Caleb Williams is still there, all those weapons. I don't know that I trust the defense, and I like Dennis Allen, but are they going to be able to take the football away 30-plus times? Are they going to lead the league in takeaways? And they've lost like everybody in that secondary. I don't think they've improved on the defensive side of the ball. Still some time to go before the draft. We'll see what they do, but I really like Detroit to bounce back this year. So there you go. There's a couple bets for you. Tennessee, love them this season is my surprise team. Lions, bounce back season. And San Francisco. I love the Mike Evans pickup. I know he's not getting any younger, but last year was the first year he was hurt ever. 10 consecutive seasons, I believe, 1,000+ yards. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Love that pickup. We'll hit more on the draft next week, but again, perfect fit. Do it, Tennessee, even if you got to move up. Jeremiah Love. Make it that easy. Do it.